Hey, what's going on? Welcome to The Doug Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and today we're getting an update from Denise. Denise has been working with me for a few months now, and we're featuring her for monthly updates for a case study here in 2023. This is the update for April, so we're publishing it in May. And we'll get a little update, what's been going on, the accomplishments, any issues that Denise has bumped into, and go from there. If you haven't listened to the other interviews, definitely check them out. We'll link up in the description and show notes here. And Denise, how's it going today?
Doing great, Doug. Thanks for having me again.
You got it. Yeah, so I'm excited to learn a little bit more about this past month. And we've actually been working together pretty closely, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But for the people that missed all the other updates, could you just give a super quick, 1 minute update about who you are, how many sites you have, and just kind of lay the foundation. We won't go in depth here, but quick intro.
Yeah, so I left my job earlier this year to go full-time blogging, doing other things as well, but essentially I'm doing blogging most of the time. Right now I'm focusing on 2 websites. I have some others that I'm going to kind of push aside. They're both on the travel niche, very different audiences, very different focuses, but they're both in the travel. And I've been working with Doug because, now that I left my job, I wasn't quite ready from a financial perspective to do that. So my goal is to increase my revenue this year and try to stay focused and, just make some progress.
Awesome. So let us know where you are as far as traffic and revenue for April. And you could pepper in the number of sites that you have and how many you're focusing on currently. So share some results.
Yeah. So the 2 sites that I'm working on, site 1, it did pretty well this past month of April. Got, in terms of traffic, about 45,000 visitors, which is pretty normal. It kind of fluctuates in that 50 to 65-ish busier months. And in terms of revenue, it did close to $3,000 for site 1. And then site 2, I had about 40,000 visitors, also pretty standard for that site. And in terms of revenue, it got about $1,300 for this month.
Okay, cool. So what was the total?
The total for both sites revenue was just over $4,000.
Okay, great.
Which was a big jump from before.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I was going to say, this is really hard to predict, but I'm just curious, do you have any projections for earnings through the year, knowing there's some seasonality and that sort of thing?
Not at the moment. And I think part of it was because April was a really good month. So $4,000 is what I would get during the holidays with both sites combined, which is kind of where my revenue goes up. So this was new because I tested a few things. The work that I was doing actually brought in some good results. So I had an extra $800 just in affiliate revenue. So I don't know how to predict. I'm hoping that it's going to keep going in that direction. But we'll see. But my goal for the year is that I would like to be kind of, close to that $10,000 a month by the end of the year. That's what I'm hoping for.
Got it. Okay. And another thing that you mentioned there, so affiliate revenue, tell us the revenue breakdown. And, you could let us know for each site, but I suspect it could be sort of close, although you have this new affiliate deal that converted really well. So let us know about that revenue breakdown.
Yeah, so site 1, for both sites actually, most of the income comes from media buying. Site 1 does make a lot more, just in terms of the RPM and everything for that site. It was not, so I want to say, I don't want to say percentage, but I'll give you April. It was $1,600 for ad revenue alone, a couple $100 for Amazon. And then just in affiliates, I did about $1,000 for site one. And then site two, um, about $800 in ad revenue and $500 in affiliates. So the big jump there was site one didn't really get affiliates before, not much, right? Like I had Amazon and some affiliates that would pop in every now and then, but I did a lot of changes and improvements, just optimizing posts specifically for affiliates. And that was a big jump, that $800 extra that I know for a fact I would not have made had I not done those changes.
It's pretty cool. So tell us about that affiliate. You don't have to share exactly like who the partner is or anything like that, but how did this come out of nowhere? And what did you do to, make it work so well, so quickly?
Well, there's actually two new affiliates that I've added to that site. They're not necessarily new. It was just the posts were not optimized for those affiliates. But being travel sites, I'll share that it's hotels and tours. The posts for that website, they just not, even though mentioned hotels and tours here and there, they were just not optimized for that. So I went in and just changed the design, how it was worded, putting call out boxes and things like that, and started getting a lot more tour bookings, or I shouldn't say more, but started getting tour bookings on that site. And then for hotel affiliates, I would get something every now and then, but again, changing just how those hotels were displayed, and then adding this new affiliate that started converting really well.
Cool. And because we're working together, I'm coaching you. I don't know, it sounded like you felt like it was taking too much time to do some of the revisions on the content because, we don't know what results you're going to get afterwards. And a lot of times we do optimization, and it doesn't do a fucking thing, right? Like you did all this work and then it looks like it was wasted. So how long did it take you to, make the updates on some of the posts? If you could estimate like number of days, number of hours, focus and all that.
So I think at this point, well, I'll go back. So in April, I probably updated about 15 different posts on that site alone. And it was taking me a good full day pretty much to do one post. So I remember I had said that I was going to do about 30, and I think I got through those 15. And that was about it. I got better, as I continued to do and kind of sort of got a process. And being the affiliates took a lot of work. I started using, Thirsty Affiliates, which made the process much faster. But every time that I started working on a new post or a new section, just adding, creating those affiliates and Thirsty Affiliates was just taking quite some time. And then on top of it, I wasn't just looking at the affiliates, right? Like I was taking posts and looking at the contents. Can I rank higher? Can I improve a lot of the content on there? Some of the things, I would start reading, pick up that there's updates that needed to be done. So go back, do research, find out the actual information, add that in. I also swapped out some photos. Being a travel site, photography is a big deal. So just getting photography ready, changing the size, optimizing all of that, uploading, putting captions and whatnot. So overall, it was a lot of work. And I remember we talked about it that, it was taking so long that I wasn't sure whether it was worth for me to continue doing that. So I had sort of put that aside. I did that batch of posts, started focusing on other things. And then all of a sudden those commissions started coming in from those posts. And I'm like, oh, hang on. Let me go back. So, at the end, all of that work paid off. I'm getting a lot faster. So I'm probably going through 2 to 3 posts a day now. Not being as picky as I was probably. So I don't know if I'm doing as good as a job that I was doing on those, but, I figured that, let me just go through more content faster and see if I can prove that whatever I did to that section of the website will work, in other sections as well.
Okay. And this might be a little repetitive, but if you could put a bow on it, what advice would you give people who are facing the same decisions that you did a month ago, where you're thinking, all right, I want to do all this work, and then you realize it's going to take a little longer, and then it is unclear if it's going to help or not. And surely some of the work that you've done, you didn't see any results from it at all. So any advice for people who are trying to figure out how to either prioritize their work or whether they should even work on improving old content, that sort of thing, or optimizing for more affiliate conversions?
Well, one thing that I found is there were affiliates on the website that they were not working, right? Whether the link was no longer valid, or it was like some old link that was there. Maybe things that were just not optimized. They were not designed a certain way, or, just not ideal for converting, for getting people to click on it. So my advice, I think it would just be to look at, are you having conversions in one side of the website? Look at why that could be and why other sections are not getting anything at all, right? Because I would get, 1 or 2 clicks in hotels in one post. So I know that people are clicking and buying. So I sort of intentionally picked a section that I had never had any conversions before. And also I just felt like writing, and focusing on that specific session. I mean, this is travel. So I had recently been to that country. I was kind of like inspired to work on that and started just looking at, what are these posts lacking that, even the few conversions that I have on the other posts, it does have, right? So started doing that. I also looked at a lot of other travel bloggers to see how they are, kind of like, who are the successful people in my niche? What are they doing that appears to be working for them? So kind of just seeing how people were displaying their information, whenever they would kind of cue the person to click on something, how are they like, directing them to click on that link, that kind of thing. So I sort of mimicked a lot of the things that I thought that is what was being successful for other travel bloggers. And then I put that in my site, and I guess it worked. So I'll see now, I'm going through a new section of the website. So hopefully I'll start to see similar results. I do think that there was a little bit of a seasonality. I mean, I picked that country to work on because I wanted to work on that section, but I think I sort of lucked out because people were probably booking trips for that destination right now. And so I think it was just like a happy coincidence there. So I don't expect for me to be getting $100 just on that section forever. But it was something that now I'm considering too, right? Like I know that there's a seasonality for travel. What's the next section that I'm going to update? Is now I'm like being more conscious about it. I'm like, oh, so summer is coming up. What other destinations that I can do that. So I mean, if you're doing products, I guess if there's a seasonality that you can play with as well, just be more strategic about when you're updating those.
Cool. Okay. So this is not going to be like this super long updates like we do sometimes. So I'm going to have to expedite this a little bit. I want to point out a couple things before we move on to the next sort of big area here. There's a blog post associated with these updates, so we'll link up to it. There's a lot more detail there. There's charts and graphs and pictures and stuff, and several other things that we're not even going to cover today. So we'll put a link, and I encourage people to go check it out. The other thing is you and I, Denise, have been working together in a mastermind group. So this was a paid mastermind group, and there were a couple other people that participated as well. And I facilitated the group meetings. I didn't try to contribute too much. I kind of guided the meeting and ran the meeting. And then there were some one-on-one sessions as well. So I think it went pretty well. And I'm putting you on the spot, Denise. Have you been in a mastermind group like that before? How did it go for you? Was it good?
Yeah, I had been to other masterminds, never in this kind of thing. Like I've, like we talked about it before, like try to do drop shipping and all sorts of other businesses. So I've been to a couple in that sense. I've been to a couple that were more based for consulting work, which is something that I was doing in the past. This was different. And I think my motivation for being in this mastermind was just some more kind of accountability that I have. So being able to show up, every time that we had a meeting and sort of have updates and how things that I was doing was keeping me going. And it was really interesting just to see other people who are doing pretty well on their websites and the kind of concerns and things that they're worried about or for, trying to figure out. So you'll learn from their mistakes, even though not mistakes, but their experience. So even though it wasn't something that was on top of my mind, it's something that I should keep in mind. And, perhaps whatever they did will be useful for me in the future as well. So
Cool.
It was really fun.
Yeah. And I think when people hit a certain level, so one thing is I like screened everyone to make sure that everyone was kind of on the same playing field versus, a beginner and someone who has like 6 years under their belt, right? They can't help each other in the same way, even though it could be fun to meet up. It's just a different dynamic. So that was really important. And, just like you said, the accountability is one of the big things because if, all of us are kind of working on our own, and I know from not having accountability myself, it's really easy just to postpone stuff and just say, do I really want to do that?
Yeah.
I'm at that stage where I'm like experimenting with that anyway, intentionally. But the accountability is huge. And I know for someone like you, Denise, where you stopped working a few months ago at the full-time gig where things are kind of, there's guide rails there or guardrails, and there's a guide and there's a clear path, but you could do whatever you want. And it's really easy to sort of get distracted. So I'm glad to hear it. And if people are interested in that kind of thing, I may hold them more often. So if you're literally interested, shoot me an email, feedback@doug.show. And in the subject line, put just, like Mastermind Group, something like that. So I know how to sort it. Okay. So as we're wrapping up here, you did something pretty cool, and I'll lay this out for people. Site number 1 gets quite a bit of traffic from Pinterest, very successful on the Pinterest side. And you were trying to figure out how to, automate / save time and just get things scheduled. I've never had much success on Pinterest and I don't know much about it. So tell us about what you were trying to do. And then there's a lot of details. Don't go too deep, but share with us how you put this together.
Like you mentioned, Site 1 gets a lot of traffic from Pinterest. I mean, seasonality works. All of a sudden, I'm like, this one post will get, 5,000-6,000 visitors just from Pinterest. So one of the biggest opportunities that I thought I had for Site 2 was Pinterest. And because, even with focusing only on 2 sites, I'm now seeing that is a lot more work than I expected it to. So I'm really just been putting a lot of my effort in Site 1. But Pinterest was something, I'm like, how can I do this the easiest, most effective way for me to just schedule these spends and start to just get that traction, not, worry too much about, is there a strategy here or nothing, just to get that going, right? Like it's one of those things, it's better to be doing something than nothing, especially because Pinterest just takes so long to start working. So there's a couple of things. You've got to be consistent and you got to, do it for a period of time before it starts working. So I used Tailwind for Site 1, but it's just bulk uploading pins is just a pain in the ass. Like there is not a tool for Pinterest in the market that allows you to, bulk schedule pins, and do it like in a very quick, easy, painless way. So I started messing around with Airtable and, Zapier. And I never know if it's Zapier or Zapier. Started messing around with that, figure out a way to automate that entire pinning strategy. So I created a lot of pins. We used ChatGPT for the descriptions or the headlines, came up with a spreadsheet essentially of all of those, linked up all of the images and created this automated way. So essentially in one afternoon, I was able to schedule pins from now until around September, which then, because, some of them go into multiple boards and things like that, I have the entire year already scheduled. And the cool thing is I wasn't sure whether that was going to work or not, but I'm starting to see, slowly now people are starting to look at the pins, save them, share them. So my impressions are going up. I have a grand total of 5 followers right now, which is, a lot more than I had a month ago, which was, 1. So, I'm curious to see where this is going to go, but just the fact that I was able to schedule all of that in one afternoon, kind of like got that Pinterest out of my head, and we'll see what the results happen. I do have a feeling though that, the pins, the images themselves could be performing a lot better. They're almost like too polished. It was, last year I had hired somebody off of Fiverr to create the pins for me. And it's almost like they look too nice. It's almost like looks like it's, an ad or something like that. So one of the things that I may want to do, and I'll wait a little bit to see, is, give it a little bit more time. And if I find that the artwork is actually preventing those things from doing better, I may just go back and redesign a lot of them and just redo it, which the scheduling now is not the issue, right? So yeah, we'll see what my Pinterest results will be in a couple months.
That's awesome. And you mentioned you want to get Pinterest traffic improving for site 2. For site 1, it's very good. And this automation process still saves a huge amount of time for that, right?
Yeah. So I haven't implemented the same thing for site 1 because I do have Tailwind already set up for site 1. And I do want to get rid of Tailwind because I think that my little contraption there is working, and just having more flexibility to do that, right? Because it's really, it's one of those things. Tailwind used to be really good, and then they started to want to do a lot of things. Now they have an email marketing tool and everything in there, and it's kind of clunky. And I'm not a Pinterest person. I just know I need to keep that going. So I do want to do that for site 1 as well. But for site 2, up until a couple months ago, there was no Pinterest being done, and now every day there's like 2 or 3 pins being published, and I'm starting to see some numbers. So we'll see.
And then final question around that. How long will it take to get some traction on site 2? And I didn't even realize this, but through our conversations, you mentioned that it's not exactly a sandbox, but it takes a little while of you pinning and doing stuff on Pinterest before the algorithm kicks in. So it is almost like the sandbox. So how long will it take?
Well, I know for a fact that there was one specific pin that I did last year for site 1 that, I published something around November, a new post, created all the pins for that, started pinning, saw some people clicking, saving, whatever. The following November, December, that post just exploded, both in SEO and with pins. So I think it's about a year. It depends a lot, right? Like Pinterest, you've got to think about it as it's another sort of SEO thing. It's not social media. It's like you got to look at the keywords that people are doing there, and some content does well, some content does do well. Like I'll have, there are pins in there that were, they're from, I don't know, 4 years ago that right now are just getting me a lot of traffic because of the summer, and they're still going, right? But they'll have, there's thousands and thousands of people that have saved them. And so it's one of those things that it gets better over time. So as long as you're being consistent with it, you do your keyword research. So your headline, your description, even the image itself. If there's text on the image, Pinterest can read that as well. So you kind of like, you just have to do it and sort of hope for the best. That's why I think that my images are not performing as well, because I'm getting a lot of impressions and not a lot of people are clicking or saving them to their boards, which is what you want, right? Like the more people that save, the more people that click on it, the more Pinterest will show, the more people will see. So I'm going to give it a little bit more time and see if some of those images start to pick up. If not, I think I will be able to get better traction, use the same headline, same description, but better images and do another test. But that was the long way to answer your question. But I think in about a year, if you keep doing it consistently.
Very good. All right. Well, as we're wrapping up here, what's coming up for the month of May? What's your focus there?
I am going to keep optimizing posts for affiliates. So I'm going to do another section of the website. So I'm working with clusters. And so I did that one cluster of the website, all of those articles, and it helped. So I picked another couple sections and I'm going through them sort of, I have to keep reminding myself that, hopefully there are results, because I do get bored. I'm like, I don't want to work on this one. I want to write a new article. But I'm going to keep doing that because I do want to test the theory that, is this really working? And I'm also starting to develop the content calendar, getting some, here's the new articles that I'm going to start adding. So hopefully in May, I'm going to be able to update a lot of the old content. And then I'm planning, to start writing some new stuff as well. I did publish a few, but, nowhere near how much I would need to increase the traffic. So.
Right. One other side note is with a mastermind group or maybe other accountability, you state your goals, right? At the end of a meeting, you say, hey, here's what I'm going to do. And most people are pretty bad at estimating how long work takes, and we overestimate it, especially in short periods. So everyone did that. I prefaced this section of the meeting by saying, you're going to overestimate, but that's okay, because then you'll do better moving forward and you'll estimate more accurately as time goes on. Because you do have the accountability and you're actually trying to do what you said from the previous week. And then you show up for the meeting or you're approaching the meeting and you're like, I'm not anywhere close. So then slowly over time, you estimate the right amount. So do you feel like you're estimating a little bit better now that you have, a couple months under your belt with it?
Yeah, for sure. I think that was funny. I was like, I'm going to do 30 posts and I think I decreased it to 15, try to be more realistic. And I didn't even get to that 15 the first time. Yeah. So now I think 15 it's almost, now I'm looking at it, I'm like 15 is not enough. Like I need to do more. So I'm just trying to hold myself accountable, like using, the Pomodoro technique, and just be like, okay, I'm going to give myself 1 hour, go through this post. So I think I'm going through them a lot faster, maybe not as, not being as thorough as I was with the other ones. But, if the way that I started looking at it is, let me do one first pass, make sure there are no broken links, that there are affiliate offers being mentioned, right? There's an opportunity for that. If it is a post is ranking on the first page, but not the top 3, can I do some quick adjustments to the text, add some more things, and see if I can get higher on that list? But I'm going through them a lot faster, right? So I kind of push through. I'm like, let me not touch the images. Let me not get too detailed into the content itself. Let me just look for those missed opportunities. Go through them a lot faster, because there's, close to 200 blog posts on the site. And I feel that if I go through all of them, then my chances are that I'll start to get more clicks and revenue coming in.
Perfect. All right, cool. Well, I'm excited to hear the progress that you make for this next month. And thanks a lot, Denise.
Yeah, thank you, Doug.